Hello! I just want to preface this podcast, Trust Your Glitter podcast, with an added addendum because today's episode is not edited. So who the fuck knows? There are asides. I am the queen of legit just choking on water, going off and talking to myself during the episode, and kind of going off topic. So I started out this episode fully intentionally not focusing 100% on astrology. And what happened is the astrology does what it does with me, and it just took me out into the cosmos. And so we started talking about Mercury for a while. There's nothing more pertinent or more reflective of a mercurial season than going Mercury with an episode. So I just want to preface this going in. I was getting ready, sitting down to edit this episode, take out all the ums and pauses, and I know I say about 1,000 times. That is how I talk. It's always going to be how I talk. All the stutters, all the slurs, not racial, okay? We're not doing that. We're not here for that. We're all inclusive. But I'm a comedian at the end of the day. And I am in the spiritual world, but I'm also a stand-up comic. So if you're offended by this episode, goddess bless, there's 1,000 podcasts out there about where Jupiter is right now and how that means somebody's gonna marry you and complete your soul. There's 1,000 tarot card readers out there telling you that somebody's your twin flame. But if you're not for that fucking shit, welcome to Trust Your Glitter. We're trusting our fucking gut. We're going in. We might even have some gluten, okay? But I'm just letting you know, this is the episode, not edited for anybody's specific needs. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. This is Christy Belich. I'm here with an intuitive reading because it's not going to be focused solely on astrology this week, but this is an intuitive reading for the energy of the week of the 26th of May through June 2nd. So when I looked at the astrology of the week ahead, we have legit no transits except, and this is a theme with our quarter moon weeks, it seems, our last quarter moon, and that's it. So we have a last quarter moon on May the 30th at 9 degrees of Pisces. So when I look at that theme, like last week we had so much shift at once, and then we're going to have that again next week. So it's like, but this isn't in any way a down week. So there's nothing about this week that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of energy in the sky, because there's a lot of aspects in the sky. But I'm going to approach this week with some tarot because the energy now has shifted into Gemini. And because of that, we have a lot of mutable energy in the sky. Now, Gemini represents the throat chakra, but the body part associated with Gemini is our hands. And so I haven't really done a lot of tarot in the last few months. I occasionally will pick some tarot cards, but I haven't really felt called to working with my tarot cards in a while. And it's very different for every tarot reader. There are people who do tarot cards 100% of the time professionally, and that is their modality of communicating with their spirits. For me, it shifts. It's astrology one week, astrology is my language. Tarot is a tool, but it's very different. So I see tarot as like a Reiki sort of energy. You're taking the energy and you're shuffling your cards, and your spirit guides choose the cards for you, or your intuition chooses these cards. So I did have a card fly out, so that will be one of the cards. But I will acknowledge these aspects because they are, I'll say, eclectic, and in very Gemini season fashion, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of information. So we start the week out the 27th with the Sun in Gemini semi-square to Chiron. And we also have Mercury, which is Gemini's home planet, in Taurus, sextile to Saturn. So sextile is a harmonious energy. Mercury's at 18 degrees Taurus, Saturn's at 18 degrees of Pisces. And then the semi-squares with the Sun at 7 degrees of Gemini, 222 degrees of Aries. Note this Chiron energy, because Chiron is actually a theme of the week, and because we're just coming through a full moon in Sagittarius, which is Centaur energy. Chiron is also Centaur energy. And what Centaur energy is a healer who has been through the journey. You know, horses represent the travels through the underworld. Horses are a huge symbol, whether you're looking at this through esoteric, Illuminati, any of that, or even just through travel and communications. Horses play a huge role. So the energy of the centaur being half human, half horse is kind of, how are you traveling on this journey? Now, we're not in the underworld journey right now. We're actually in the above. So I would ask us all to reflect back to last fall still. And personally, I went through, and I'm on day 2, so I have one more day of a sacred ceremony that I did last fall with Sarah Jenks. So it's completely online, completely free. It's her replay of her rebirth ceremony, and I did night 2. So I did a Samhain sort of ceremony where it's literally completely a meditative ceremony. And one of the quotes that really stuck with me, that I was like, I have to share this for today, is, you're doing something first in your life. If you're a cycle breaker, you're here to do something that nobody's ever done. You're here to trailblaze. You're here to go down a path that nobody has been down in your lineage, in your soul tribe, in your friend group, in your career group. Say you changed careers, and I know the pressures of starting in a career where, you're in that culture of everybody is expected to be a certain way, and then you break out of that. And there can be a lot of emotions tied to that. So this week is actually kind of related to a lot of communications in general. We're going to continue. I'm following the weather for a reason. I understand we are in the US, we're in tornado season, but there's been mudslides, there's been flooding, there's been anomalies still happening, there's been beached whales in Australia. There's been a lot of things going on, and I do think that Mother Earth is speaking to us in so many ways, and I'm getting called to share and talk about this. So I want to acknowledge that Gemini is an air energy, mutable, can change at the weather, just like when it comes to tornadoes, things can shift immediately at the drop of a hat. So this week is not necessarily set in stone, and it's not going to be something where on the surface it looks like, yes, we have this last quarter moon in Pisces, but the reality is there's just a lot of racing thoughts that can happen this week. There's a lot of racing information that can continue throughout this process. And with a last quarter moon in Pisces, the lunar energy is asking us to continue to release something that a story, because the stories were coming up last week, the storyteller energy of Sagittarius, of the centaur, the circle of shared language continues. And it is about language. It is about communication. I was just thinking before getting on the podcast about Saturn and Mercury and how communication is so different for those who have, my mom used to work in a nursing home, and some of her patients could not speak verbally. They had strokes, they had Lou Gehrig. There was a lady who had Lou Gehrig's disease. Her name was Betty. And her end of life care was really, really hard. And her end of life care was something where she could only speak with her eyes. And I was thinking about that because I didn't really have a family. Like, my mom's nursing home patients were kind of like my makeshift family when I was really young. And how even those who have like prosthetics or those, I'm following people on TikTok who are on live streams who have lost limbs, and thinking about how communication styles, sign language, how all of this ties into Gemini season, and how imperative it is to really be on board when it comes to communication, and how miscommunications can really fuck things up. Morse code during, certain times of war. Even ancient languages. There's a show called Skinwalker Ranch, which brings very ancient language to the forefront of mainstream television. Spirit is always communicating through us. It's really just up to us to decide how we decipher these codes and languages. And I don't know the answer to anything. I just know how to interpret astrology. And there's always something to learn. There's always something. We are the perpetual students on this planet. In my opinion, we're here to constantly sit here and try and understand these codes and sequences that we're being given. So even this week, I would say, if you're being called towards numerology, or being called to studying astrology, or studying ancient texts, or anything like that, that's literature. That's all tied up into the energy of this week. We have to sit in the seat of being the learner. And even those who have different learning styles, really being okay with speaking up towards your learning style. I do have a problem with, like, calling people like neurodivergent. Like, I do wonder how the learning style of society is going to shift in the next 2 decades, especially with those of us who are chronically online, having to have our business online, and how that adjusts our brain, and how that is going to shift over time. That's in the forefront this week as well. So just know, if you're having like a week where you're like, I can't do visual learning this week, I need to do audio, or I need to shift to whatever type of tactical learning, that's what this week is all about. So it's really hard for me to pinpoint days, but in honor of and wanting to acknowledge and be respectful towards astrology, I just want to also acknowledge the linear dates this week. So on the 29th, 30th, and 31st, these are days where I would say this learning style, having to take the seat of the student, comes into play with where the aspects are. So aspects are kind of like how these planets are talking, how these planets are conversing. May 29th, Venus and Venus and the Sun for the next 2 weeks are going to be very close to one another. They're traveling together, even though they don't formally conjunct until the 4th of June. Venus and the Sun are aligned enough where, the sacred morning star, she is bringing messages. And however you want to interpret that esoterically is how you interpret that. But the way I'm interpreting this is our heart, our creativity, our creative path moves through our voice, moves through our communications, music, interpretive dance, things like that, comedy, because Gemini is the comedian of the zodiac, as well as Sagittarius. As well, I would say Capricorn is like the dark comedian, like the one. If I were to, as a comic, I'm just going to say on the zodiac wheel, comedy is a huge part of this. And so, like, because I would, just as a minion on this planet, I would just say, Jupiter is the sacred comic planet. But I would also say Saturn is like that sort of. Like, when I think of Saturn as a comic, I think of somebody like Dave Attell. If anybody's a stand-up comedy fan, I would just say, like, Saturn is Dave Attell. Dark comedian, jokes come from the side of his mouth, smoking a cigarette, like, spitting out truth, but at the same time, like, saying the most ridiculous things in the most poetic justice situation of, like, just bringing society to its root and just digging it up from the core of the earth and being like that, and then just walking away into the dark of the night. That is Saturn embodied, in my opinion. Just this Capricorn energy, just being like, this is what it is. Dry, dark, evil, beautiful evil, though. There is a beauty to the evil of comedians that I wish I could, like, bring as an alignment between the spiritual community and the comedy community. I really wish somehow I could communicate that, because I'm in both communities, and yes, I believe in love and light, but it's so fucking funny when you hear a dark joke and it's so fucking true. And it's literally the truth. And yet, you're just sitting there and you're like, this is legit. What is that? 15:06. I have to take that sound out. It's legit the truth. And you're just like, that's fucking hilarious. And on the 29th, 30th, and 31st, it's kind of that vibe. It's just like Venus is semi-square Mars. Venus is semi-square Chiron. Mars and Chiron are conjunct on the 29th. So this energy, so Venus is at 7 Gemini, Chiron and Mars are at 22 degrees Aries. It's biting, it's caustic, it's razor tongue. Love it. Here for it. It's just beautiful energy. If you're, and by the way, like, you don't gotta get it. You don't gotta get it. And the next day, and to further this energy, because Gemini is associated with Mercury. Mercury is semi-sextile to Chiron. So Mercury's at 22 degrees of Taurus, semi-sextile direct neighbor to Chiron at 22 degrees Aries. So a semi-sextile is like, these are the signs right next to each other. Same day that Mercury and Mars, so that alignment, so Mercury semi-sextile to the conjunction of Mars and Chiron in the fire sign of Aries. People are saying the shit. There's shit being said that has to be heard. For every bullshit thing that's out there, there's a counter movement to it. I just have to put that out there. That's what I'm being guided to say. And on the 31st, so we got to circle the 29th, 30th, and 31st, Mercury is conjunct Uranus. So here we complete, not really complete, because we're gonna see this with Mars. When Mars enters Taurus and then goes through the sign of Taurus, or transits the sign of Taurus. So we're gonna see Mercury bringing back this this energy. So we saw Venus here, Jupiter, and now Mercury, voice, big week for communication. Mercury is aligning with Uranus at 24 degrees of Taurus. And with this energy, I would say it still perpetuates that 20th of April energy in the sky. It's still we are not done with this cycle, and it's the cycle that keeps on going right now. So it was one of the biggest days of 2024, but that means that it started a spiral. It's a pointed day, the 20th of April, where big old doors opened up. And because of that, we're going to see even more truth spoken. This is Taurus energy. Eventually, we're going to have Uranus in the sign of Gemini. That's going to shift up the energy for us in the future. But right now, with Uranus Taurus, there's a lot of like no bullshit. Put your foot down. Stop being dumb type energy in the sky. There's a lot of like ultimatum energy to this. I love Uranian energy because it can go either way. It could be like, and Uranus wants a revolution. This is why my fucking Instagram account has been flagged. Every week I get these things on Instagram because you can't say certain words. But it's just, that's what it is. Like, you have to say what it is. You have to say what it is. Uranus is like, no this is done. The old way is fucking over. You either shit or get off the pot, motherfucker. Not a week for people who don't want their shit reflected back to them. I will say that. We are in the season of Hall of Mirrors, and that beautiful full moon in Sagittarius gave us that. Mirror work right now is on point. If you're doing any affirmation work, this is also your week to just continue to do that affirmation work. I just started the 369 method, and I'm on day 2 of that as well. And I'm telling you, it is really, really helpful. And if you want to look that up yourself, that's your own thing. But it's just I've done the artist's way, and I just was like, this is Gemini season. I need to sit with words, and I need to heal with words right now. And I need to heal with the words I say to myself. How many of us are out here just like being hard on ourselves? And how much of the language that we speak to ourselves is just, if this is the ultimatum you have to do for yourself, this Mercury Uranus energy is just like, stop being a bully to yourself. Oh my God, you're so much better than that. With Venus in the sky, Mercury in a Venus ruled sign, you have to appreciate how beautiful astrology is. Astrology, this is like what it is. It's poetry in the sky. It's literally cosmic poetry. How could you not love that shit? Seriously, it's so cool. Like, we get not the best poems sometimes, as my stomach growls. We get not the best poems sometimes. Sometimes we get a square to Pluto and we have to sit there and we have to sit in the discomfort. Sometimes we get, a quincunx and we have to kind of go around the energy and figure it out as we go. But ultimately, we have this energy to learn from ourselves. It's not that we have a Mercury retrograde, but because Jupiter is now solidly in the sign of Gemini, there's a lot of review that comes with our own story, our own sacred voice. And I can only come at this from my perspective of being a stand-up comedian and literally taking over a year to review what that means to me. So this week, as I go in, just from a very personal perspective, I was intuitively guided to start ramping up verbal manifestation work, to start ramping up writing and journaling and sacred altar work, which is really hard for me to do because I have a lot of shame surrounding doing sacred goddess altar work. Now, because I was raised Catholic, I was only told that Jesus matters, and I love Jesus, don't get me wrong. But also, when you do like sacred meditative work, different energy, different guides come through that. So for you, if you're like connecting with certain goddesses, connecting with certain energies, this is a week where you can get those intuitive hunches to do that sacred vocal work that you need to do. And that could even mean that your vocal work is literally taking walks and just meditating peacefully on your own. It's however it's interpreted in your own way. And that's very personal to everybody. And it's very, and I'm not saying anything that, oh, fuck, this is hard for me to say. It's like, oh, I don't want to be, I'm gonna say it, I have to say the thing. It's not like there's not a religious war not going on right now. We're literally seeing it reflected in the outer world. So there's something in our internal lives that is also the same energy, the same equivalent energy. What in ourselves are we literally at war with, at battle with, when it comes to our inner communications that needs to be brought to the surface, that needs to just have the air cleared? And this is a cycle to cycle process. This is this past full moon in Sagittarius taking us to the quarter moon, last quarter moon. So we had our big light shining illuminated Sagittarian full moon to our quarter moon in Pisces. That is emotional waves, right? That ocean wants to help us, wants to guide that vocal work. Great. If you have an ocean near you, throw a piece of paper, a rock, whatever symbolizes some bullshit, or a lake or a stream, throw that shit into the water, let it be taken away. And then next week, we're going to have a new moon in the sign of Gemini, where we can very much say, hey, I actually want to direct the conversation of my life here. I actually want to direct my manifestations here. I actually am a better person for that bullshit. This is a long game. But I want to play my cards this way now. I want to be dealt this hand. I've been dealt these shitty hands for however fuck long. Or I played my card, I was all in. You might have went all in with your, we gotta go gambler here, but you might have put all your chips in. But where were you putting all your chips in? And where do you need to step back and be like, oh fuck. The reason why I couldn't see the truth of that, the reason why I couldn't understand that, was because I didn't get this piece of information. Mercury. Well, now Mercury and Uranus align and say, you can clear a path for yourself. Ain't nobody ever been down that path before. It's going to be weird. It's going to be unique. It's going to be different. It's going to be authentic. You might have to put your elbows into it, get some elbow grease on there. But guess what? Fuck the system, Uranus and Taurus. Fuck the old ways, Uranus and Taurus. Let's make them feel uncomfortable with my words. Mercury, Gemini, Venus. Jupiter. But make them laugh at it. Jupiter and Gemini. We are in the energy of the sacred clown. I am not of native origin, I'm very, 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 as much aware as I can possibly be when I speak of native cultures, but I was given the gift to sleep and stay and rejuvenate myself across native lands across the U.S. So I also want to acknowledge the Heyoka here. My friend Lady of the Lamps has some beautiful work on her Instagram regarding Heyoka work. But I also can't speak to the Heyoka because I am not traditional indigenous native First Nations or indigenous native tribe. So I just want to say that this is the work of a sacred clown. And with this energy in fire, air, and earth, this is the sacred communications of earth, of these elements that bring us almost like a direct conversation with our spirits, with our guides, with our intuition, with our higher beings, with the people who have crossed. So it's not like we are in the Samhain portal, but our sacred ancestors are here. I don't know why I was guided to do this rebirth ceremony, but tonight is night 3, and I was like, it's not Halloween, it's not Dia de los Muertos time, but why do I feel like I'm in that energy right now? And when I did night 1, it was such an emotional experience. I felt all my loved ones around. Night 2 was really hard, which was last night, but it was very powerful. And then I'm not sure what night 3 is going to bring me, but here's what I know is I'm supposed to talk about this. And the other thing that I really realized as a comedian is that I've had so many friends cross over, and I'm so grateful for them. And I'm so grateful for being, like, when I look at comedians, I see us as a soul tribe. And there's different sections and packs and things like that within the comedy soul tribe. But I'm extremely grateful for my friends who have crossed, because now I have protectors to help call me on the bullshit of other people. Because when you're in a tribe, it's really hard to see beyond the mindset of that tribe. And that goes for fucking everything. That could be in a political party, that can be under a government or institution, that can be in your art painting group, who the fuck knows, your dance group, your whatever, wherever there's pressure to be a certain way. Uranus and Mercury have no place with that right now. Mars has no place right now with Chiron. Yes, you may have been ostracized, rejected, maybe we're on Earth just to be fucking rejected until we find who the fuck we are. Maybe that rejection cycle is our family, like our core birth family. I was thinking the other day, I was in class and I was like thinking about how much punishment I received by just being myself, and how I was told that the punishments that I received were the truth of my identity. And the reality is, my identity is my identity. It has nothing to do with the punishments I received, which were rooted in the Catholic Church. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a comedian, that my goal is to speak truth to power. That's literally my purpose. That's why I have this podcast. That's why I stepped away from stand-up comedy, because I couldn't speak truth in a community that is rooted in that which speaks truth. So when I sit back and I really think about what my purpose is versus what other people are expecting right now, it's very different. That is what we're being asked this week, to be that fucking honest with our fucking self. Don't let anybody else try and block your blessings or steal your shine. You are here to be something amazing on this planet. And so on June the 1st, we have the Sun quintile to Neptune. June the 2nd, we have Venus quintile to Neptune. Faith. To me, quintiles are like a creative energy. That's how I see it. That's how I've learned it. But really, June the 1st, 2nd, we also have Mercury semi-square the North Node, Mercury at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Taurus, semi-square the North Node at 14 degrees Aries. The 2nd, we have Jupiter trine Pluto. The 2nd, we have Mercury sextile to Neptune. So I record generally on Sundays. So today is Sunday the 26th, and so that's my recording day. But just know that the 2nd is a day where you need to just surrender to ultimate faith. There is a force, a higher power in charge. I said I wasn't going to talk about astrology, and here I am talking about astrology. It's going to be a long podcast. So I have some tarot cards here that I pulled, and I want to talk about them. I have a card that flew out. I had a couple cards actually fly out when I was shuffling. So the first one is the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups is about reconnection. Generally, I see this with other people, but the way I am interpreting this, because I feel, actually, I have the Five of Pentacles here as well. It has to be on both levels. So the reconnecting energy is, what piece of yourself did you not allow in your life based on expectations? And the reason why I say that is because of this Mercury conjunction with, Mercury with Uranus conjunction. And with all the Mars energy we have in the sky, the Mars Chiron energy, there is something that you possibly have a wound from your past that is tapping at your being. And in this case, it's having to ask yourself, the Knight of Cups, the Hanged Unicorn, the Ace of Cups, how do you really look at this from a loving perspective? How would you enter this with the Knight of Cups from the energy of the nurturer? Now, the nurturing energy in Taurus let me reframe that. The nurturing energy with the sign of Taurus, because Mercury's in Taurus, is in somewhat of a friction, I would say. It's kind of like you can't really settle down the way that the Taurus energy wants to settle down, because Taurus is Venus ruled and Venus is in Gemini. You can't really just be chill with it. It's really like if you're sitting in meditation or you're taking care of your body, it might be that your mind continues to wander this week. It's just kind of part of the game this week. So when you start to nurture yourself is when you're going to get those big all right, I have to set a boundary here. I have to cut off my phone here. I have to DND my phone here. I have to schedule emails. It's how do you set up your boundaries around communication so that even as things kind of come towards you, you can still get a little peace. There is a rocking energy this week, and the Ace of Cups is reversed. So when I see my reversals, I know that this is where the work needs to be done. So Ace of Cups is about heaps and heaps of love and compassion coming towards you. In the reverse, I see this as actually it's going to be kind of part of the challenge. So it's like, yes, you understand that your nervous system needs aligned, but it's also part of setting space for that, because this week has no interest in your needs and space when it comes to the world. So you're going to have to make that a priority. And it's all part of the message in general. And with the hanged unicorn out, it can feel like you're kind of stuck in both places at once. And so I'm going to do a Britney Spears Oracle deck card because why not? I love these cards. They were a birthday present and they just mean so much to me. So I just want to thank the person that sent it. And I'm just going to do one. And it is the Boho Babe. Yes, Queen. Okay. Let's read the interpretation of the Boho Babe. So, the message, ASMR, of the Boho Babe is one of Britney's favorite casual off-duty garments is a peasant blouse. We've definitely seen it on Instagram. She likes to twirl around in it. She's been wearing them for years, and it is often seen rocking a cropped version with shorts. Now, I do need to interject here, okay? Because we do see this Boho Babe outfit, but it definitely is part of the controversy of whether Britney was an AI Boho Babe. But that gets deep into the conspiracy routes. I'll continue. Britney owns a bohemian blouse in a rainbow of hues to suit her every mood and tends to choose them when she's feeling carefree and happy. Now, we don't know that, but that's what this interpretation says. We don't know if this is true. Trends may come and go, but Britney sticks with the pieces she loves best, regardless of what's in. But life is about more than a favorite blouse. As transformative as clothes may be, it's about finding contentment in the everyday and discovering the magic of being yourself. And the Boho Babe embodies all those important lessons. Let her spirit soothe you, and her joy lead you to your delight. Okay, so I'm here for the message of the Boho Babe. Like, embrace your joy. I definitely have questions because it's that picture of, like, if anybody's a Britney Spears fan, you know the one where she has like the flower crown and she's definitely looking in the camera and her eyes are definitely out of it. And then this is the one where they interpreted whether her hand, well, it's no one of many, where they tried to interpret whether or not her hands are real because, damn, this is when you know spirit be working with you. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm all jokes here. But seriously, AI cannot replicate hands. And hands are ruled by Gemini because they cannot replicate the energy of the trickster because in many ways that's what the trickster energy does. It's like, oh, y'all be playing, y'all be trying. Well, you can't replicate the energy of the hands, which are literally communication to the energy of the sky, because people would be doing Reiki through their hands. Maybe the Boho Babe's wider message is like, fuck AI. I don't know, that's maybe my just weird interpretation of this all. Like, fuck the fakery. Just be yourself. If you want to wear a blouse with a flower crown, God bless you. Goddess bless you. If you want to twirl around with knives in your hand, go on ahead. Go on with yourself, babe. Go on. Go all out. All right. This episode was very Gemini Mercury, and if you're a Gemini Mercury person, you'll appreciate this episode. If you need a linear, this is what the date does on this date type of astrology vibe, that's not me. But I just want to say, have a great week ahead. It's gonna be this. If you followed through this whole episode with the frenetic energy, that's what this week is all about. Just be your boho babe. All right? Take care.